Hello, Michelle is here. Hello. Let me get the microphone closer to my face. Can you hear me? Let me make sure that I'm on the correct microphone too. So let me just audio Yeti. Hello. Test. There. Okay, there we go. Sorry about that. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Shakedown Light Reading. I should have thought of a name for this, but I did not think of a name. So here we go. Tonight we are going to start the first in a many long series of reading from these wonderful books that I was gifted. Okay, so tonight we're doing No Guts, No Glory. Now, this is the only book that appears to have been published by an actual publishing company, Select Books, Inc. in New York. Heidi Whitehair's book, When You Believe, appears to have been published by herself. Yes, published, it literally says published by Heidi Whitehair. This one doesn't have a publisher listed at all. Dave Pitcock did not even, he just has thethinkingcure.com, his website, and then it goes right to contents. There's some thanks and acknowledgments and an introduction, but there's nothing on here. The first chapter is called Feeling Good. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, for those of you just joining us, we are going to do a dramatic reading. So if you've ever been into audiobooks, this is my audition into doing audiobooks, except I will not be reading them. Oh, no, I'm not knocking self-publishing. What I'm saying is, okay, I understand what you mean, Michelle. Please don't anyone think that I'm knocking self-publishing. What I mean, though, is that it goes to show that anybody can publish whatever they want. Right. And when you have money, you can publish whatever you want. When you're able to find, like if you have your own money, you didn't have to crowdsource, you don't have to do anything else. So all I mean to imply is that anyone can self-publish if they have the right funds. And of course, somebody who is clearly narcissistic to be like, everybody should hear about my rise to glory. That's all I meant. Please forgive me, Michelle. I know that you know I meant well. All right. So let's go ahead. I read the synopsis on the back on Instagram. So if you want the synopsis, I suggest that you go there. But let's go ahead and start, shall we? No guts, no story. A tale of courage and success from the heartland. Barb Pitcock. This book is dedicated. I don't think I'm going to be able to get through this. This book is dedicated to all of the ordinary people with extraordinary dreams. And to my husband, Dave, and our 3 children, Brooklyn, Chance, and Kellyanne. I do like, hey, Megan, hey, Meow. I do like her children's names. All right. Oh, my God. There are so many. There's 24 chapters. I didn't even look. The first chapter is called I Was Lost. The second chapter is called, Was He an Angel Dressed as a Bull Rider? The last chapter is called Freedom at Last. Mute your notifications. Do I have? Oh, okay. Yeah. You know what? I should sell it to the Pitcocks. I was like, what notifications are you even talking about? All right. Do not disturb. Yeah. I should be like, hey, listen, Pitcocks, do you want an audiobook? Because I just did one. My cost is $4 million. Yeah, so the last chapter is called Freedom at Last. Hey, Penny, we are doing a dramatic reading of No Guts, No Story. The foreword. When I first read the title of No Guts, No Story, I thought it was a typo from the infamous. Wait, is this? Oh, the foreword is from Les Brown. Okay, let's read that. When I first read the title of No Guts, No Story, I thought it was a typo from the infamous quote by my colleague and friend Dexter Yeager, No Guts, No Glory. But after reading this manuscript, it is clear why Barb has this unique title and why this book will impact the lives of its readers. I believe stories and great storytellers can change your life. I believe that too. We've learned some of life's most valuable lessons from childhood fables, story from friends and family, and now for me, many inspirational messages from No Guts, No Story. Wouldn't it be nice if our lives read as a fairy tale book? How enjoyable would our lives be if we had little to no havoc, few disappointments and defeats, and happy times to forever remember? What if our only problem was trying to find contentment and live happily ever after? Well, as strange as it may seem, I believe we lead fairy tale lives full of adventure, otherwise disguised as challenges, packed with villains, also known as naysayers. I'm surprised it didn't say haters, and happiness, which is sweeter after reflecting about personal victories. Imagine if you died, only to realize you never really lived and in no way scraped the surface of your true potential. That would be devastating. But I found that this is the reality for most people because they are afraid to do as Mother Teresa said, which is to be a pencil in the hands of God. Most people don't want to shake. Mother Teresa would think you are a joke, okay? Most people don't want to shake up their lives to pursue something different and against the status quo. That's why I believe the graveyard is the richest place in the world. Because many shy away from writing a new chapter in their lives. What does that even mean? What? I believe the graveyard is the richest place in the world because many shy away from writing a new chapter in their lives. What the hell does that even mean? Some don't want guts or a story. Barb's title is so significant to me because it took guts for me to believe I could earn millions of dollars, change people's lives, and be named one of the top 5 speakers in the world. Well, somebody look up Les Brown. Tell me if he's named one of the top 5 speakers. Considering my grim, impoverished circumstances, it takes guts to believe you can beat incurable illnesses, but many do. And it took guts for Barb's husband to spend $1,000 of borrowed money to start a new business when creditors were their only friends because they called so often. And with that leap of faith, they have written many new chapters in their lives and have touched and inspired the lives. There's a typo. Amazing. This is how it reads. And with that leap of faith, they have written many new chapters in their lives and have touched and inspired the lives many others. The lives many others. The lives of many others. Okay. I think there's a mosquito in here because I am getting bit up in my own office. So that's cool. All right. Should run a caption contest for some of the pics these people choose for their public images. I should. No Guts, No Story is laugh out loud funny. I intend on laughing out loud a lot. Barb is honest and transparent. The writing is bold and vivid, not a bunch of self-help fluff, but many real stories with lessons to apply in many areas of your life today. Les Brown. All right. I'm not going to read the acknowledgments right now because I don't care. All right. Let's get to this introduction. Are you all ready? Everybody get ready. Here we go. Should I light a candle? I don't think I have a... Oh, whatever. All right. Here we go. Growing up in the small town of Russell, Kansas, with only 5 stoplights and less than 2,500 people, I guess you could say we were a bit sheltered. My parents raised 5 of us in a 3-bedroom house where the girls shared a canopy bed and the boys had bunks across the hall. I was not poor and I never had a canopy bed. Canopy beds were for rich people. Until I was about 12. Sorry, I don't mean to imply that she was rich. Whatever. Until I was about 12, I remember loving my bedroom at Grandma's house, where I spent most days and many nights. Grandma and Grandpa Mills were much like my mom and dad in that they worked around the clock and actually were partners with my parents in rental properties and an RV park. I'd spend my summers mowing the campground or cleaning out vacant mobile homes so the next tenants could move in. There was always something to be done and not much time to get bored. Television was almost prohibited, and playtime was a reward that you got after you finished all your chores, did your piano, baton and Sunday school lessons, or completed a project that Grandma or my parents had started. What a terribly constructed sentence. We only had one song. After my grandmother lost her battle with cancer in 1982, my world was never quite the same. She had been my rock, showing me unconditional love and giving me the spiritual foundation that I didn't understand was so important when I was a young girl. Little did I know this foundation would help me survive so much. The future. So little did I know this foundation would help me survive so much that the future had in store for her little red-headed, freckled-faced girl she called Barbie. Wait, is that what's going on with this sentence? Little did I know this foundation would help me survive so much that survive so much that the future had in store for little red-headed. Gotcha. That's not great writing. At the age of 12, I had to grow up. Without grandma, my mother needed me to help her with the children as she continued to work with my dad running their businesses and making a living for our family. I was just a kid raising kids, and like any teenager, I hated my parents and thought they didn't know anything. All right, so I want to preface, as we're reading a story that I'm going to say allegedly is her real story, and I only say allegedly because one of the biggest tropes that we see from multi-level marketing representatives, promoters, is they talk so much about how terrible their life was before their MLM, before their success. So the scenario she's describing is real life for a lot of people. I have a very jaded opinion that a lot of this might be fabricated and not real. So there are plenty of people that raise kids when they're 12 because their parents have to work, whatever. But it does not excuse being a scam artist. I just want to preface that having a crappy upbringing, a crappy childhood does not excuse being a scam artist. And also, yeah, Penny says, I never hated my parents. There were times where you're like, I hate my parents, but like she really just says, and I hated my parents. Okay. Like any other teenager, okay. The work ethic that I learned was something that few in our small town understood. There was no time for sports, nor would my mom and dad have stopped to come and watch me participate. They drove 2 semi-trucks and owned a food distribution company, along with a grocery store that was about a half-hour's drive north of Russell. Okay, so here's what I'm just going to call my first BS, okay? If they drove 2 semi-trucks and owned a food distribution company, back in the time she would have been growing up, people who drove truck made money, like better than it was now. I know this I know this well enough because my grandfather-in-law was a trucker. So I have reason to believe that her parents, but if they also owned a food distribution company, if you owned a business, like a legitimate business and it's food distribution, and you're talking about the 1980s, they were potentially making a lot of money. But the way that she phrases this is that there was no time for sports or any other activities because my mom and dad would not have stopped to come and watch me participate. Is she trying to paint her parents as hardworking people who were unable to, or terrible parents that would not say, I need to make sure that I'm at this thing for my kid, right? Okay. Along with a grocery store. So they owned, I don't know how anybody owns a food distribution company and a grocery store and also drives semi-trucks. Does that sound like completely unrealistic? Like, I've never met a trucker that was like, I also owned 2 businesses in the 80s. Okay. They also owned, this just keeps getting better. They also owned the putt-putt golf course that was at the campground. So they own 3 businesses and are running truck or driving. No. What? I learned to run the cash register, greet people, and run the front of many of their businesses before most kids were able to stay alone and babysit. My parents were also born and raised in our small town, so they knew most everyone there. This made it very hard to get too mischievous because anything I did would get back to them by morning. Well, how if they were driving truck? Sorry, okay. It wasn't as if I had a lot of time to get into trouble, but like any kid, I created my fair share. I thought I knew everything, and I became very hateful and mouthy, which led to many beatings from my father. I criticized him for things I felt were wrong and would remind him that his children were not my kids to raise. I just don't know. Penny and had rental properties, right? I loved my younger brothers and sisters, Lori, Mark, Tracy, and Jeremy, and cared a great deal for them. They taught me so much about motherhood, but that didn't take away the resentment I had as a kid when all of my friends were playing softball or swimming at the pool. I usually took the kids with me to the pool to play with them just so I could see my friends there. Today, I am thankful for the lessons I was taught, but back then, I always thought I was underprivileged. Here's the thing. Even if you're taking care of 5 siblings, was she one of 5 or yeah, she's one of 5. If you're taking care of 4 other kids, if your parents own 3 businesses and drive truck, you're not underprivileged. There might be some actual like other situation. Oh my God, I'm like so itchy. All right. There were no cell phones then, so the base that sat in our kitchen was a way to call mom and dad on the CB in case of emergency. I could hear them update their locations and talk about different things about the business as they traveled their routes. So you mean to tell me that on the CB, her parents talked about the business over the CB? People can hear what you're talking about on a CB, right? Like, that's okay. They traveled several hours outside of our hometown, delivering milk, dairy products, and frozen food items to restaurants, stores, and schools. By the time I was in 8th grade, I would cook, clean, do the laundry, get the kids to preschool or daycare before I went to school, and pick them up after school to soon start the routine over again. I learned a lot about responsibility, hard work, setting goals, and making sacrifices. I would need those survival lessons because I had no idea what it would be like when my mom and I were on our own. One day in May, during my senior year in high school, my dad made a decision to leave. Much like my grandmother did, he taught me many lessons and then disappeared. Your grandmother died. Those are not the same thing. After this, my feelings about being so mistreated and the feelings of hatred towards my parents changed. I learned to love my mom and became very close to her as I watched her survive as a single mom of 5 with no child support. It would be several years before we discovered where our father was. Okay, so just so I'm clear, in this introduction, she is stating that when her parents were together, she raised the children. But then when her dad left, then mom started raising the children. But it was mom not driving. Okay. This book begins in 1992 when I was a young woman trying to sort out my life and what my destiny was. Wanting to put my thoughts on paper, I began my journals after I married, and my husband and I began our entrepreneurial journey through the next 10 years. I realized that what I wanted to say might never be published, but hoped that my strong faith and energy would lead me to tell my story. Hopefully, it would inspire many others to go where they have not been before and to conquer and achieve what they have not seen in their own lives. In the end, I hoped my experiences would give them the faith, the strength, and the belief to achieve their destinies. I believe that if this story is read by many and becomes a bestseller in bookstores all over the world, she's really manifesting a lot there, it will be because it is a true experience. So if it doesn't become a bestseller, does that mean it's a lie? It exposes the same feelings that so many people have, but don't ordinarily have the courage or opportunity to share with others. The pain, the fear, the anger, the sorrow, or the feelings about victory over difficulties that they experience. God is real, and so are all of the emotions we have to experience in this world. none of this had anything to do with God up until this point. God is real, and so are all of our emotions. Along the way, our feelings about our choices will be ours to live with. I hope you are inspired by the adversities that I have overcome, and that you will find yourself gaining the strength, wisdom, and belief to help you achieve your dreams in whatever you pursue in life. Whether you are struggling with difficult problems of your parents' divorce, or cancer, a suicide, bankruptcy, or even something as seemingly small as a low self-esteem. God, this was such a terrible sentence. I believe that there is someone out there who has been where you are. 10 points to anyone who names the musical that I just sang from. I believe that someone can overcome adversity and rise above the pain, the fear, the anger, the sorrow, and the doubt, only to grow stronger than yesterday. All right. In order for things to get better, ... you have to get better. And I believe that you will get better as you read these pages and can see yourself able to overcome obstacles, as long as you don't quit. Your failure is not final. Keep learning, growing, and striving to become the person you were created to be, the person that is destined for greatness. My wish is that you will become the victor, not the victim. I hope that you will take all of your excuses not to succeed and make them the reason to succeed. You will have to have some guts with a capital G. Michelle, I might do the entire book, whatever. Sorry, where were we? You will have to have some guts with a capital G, or you will never have a story with a capital S. Your story can change the lives of many in ways you have never dreamed. No guts. No, sorry. Should I read it like this? I was lost. All right. Chapter 1. Let's just do one chapter a night. You ready? I was lost. I heard sirens as I pulled into the old Safeway grocery store parking lot. Evidently, the cops had been called after a teenage fight broke out in the middle of Main Street. When I drove past the fight in my slick little red convertible, I heard the boys whistling at me as I caught a glance of the heartthrob of Russell. Kansas, starting another fight on that little downtown Main Street. I had no interest at all in the guys who whistled. I had too many responsibilities in my life to join the group of people my age who were having a party on the block that night. Going to these kinds of parties had never excited me that much. Instead, I sat in my car in the parking lot, shaking and praying for God to give me the strength to get through this difficult time. A lot had happened in the last 24 hours, and I was just trying to figure it all out. Again, just to preface, even if everything in this book is 100% true, I am reading it to make the point that she is using any kind of terrible, beginning of her life to justify being a scam artist. Okay. So I'm not making fun of any situations that are in here, just to be perfectly clear. Okay. But I also believe that a lot of it's probably fabricated. On that Friday night in August of 1992, although I was only 22 years old, I felt much older. It had been 10 years since my first date in 7th grade with the boy who is now my fiancé. I had believed for a long time that he would someday love me as much as I believed I loved him. And now it seemed that my dreams and plans for our life together were shattered. Why? I had again worked a full day at my beauty salon. After that, I decided to take my little brothers and sisters to the Odin Rodeo, a small town rodeo just outside of my hometown. That was one of the first nights in weeks I hadn't gone straight home exhausted from work. I felt that I needed to spend some time with my sister and brother, Tracy and Jeremy, who were just 5 and 7 years old. It had never dawned on me that I should go straight home after the rodeo. Instead, I left the rodeo with the children and my friend Tina to take a ride in the country. A weekend in the country, how amusing and delightfully droll. We went in search of one of those dream homes we had heard about, a mansion. where a successful couple lived with their 2 children. I was young with big dreams and a lot of ambition, and had recently joined a direct selling networking company with cosmetic products. It made sense to me since I owned a hair salon. Okay, so just to be clear, she said that her parents owned a food distribution company, a truck, they drove truck. Oh, wait, they drove 2 trucks, owned a food distribution company, a grocery store, and what else did she say? A gas station? I don't remember. They owned a whole lot of stuff and a putt-putt golf course. And now she, at the age of 22, owns a hair salon. Okay. I'm trying to figure out the timeline. It made sense to me since I owned a hair salon that I might as well get an extra stream of income coming in. After all, I looked at the houses some of those people lived in and the cars they drove, not to mention the photos that showed their husbands close to them with a pile of kids and grandkids. That is all I ever dreamed of, and I wanted what they had. I have never been too good at finding my way around in the country, and I became lost. Soon it was 12:45 a.m. The evening at the rodeo seemed like a good idea until I got home and the man I planned to marry flew into a rage. Oh, this is not Dave. Flew into a rage because I came home a bit late. Well, I mean, I'm not excusing a rage, but like 12:45 a.m. Is that a bit late? Like it's 12:30 when you said you were going to be home? Not that you have a curfew, but like, did you say you were going to be? Okay. I will never forget what happened when I pulled into the driveway of the beautiful brick home that I was leasing. I could see the cars lined up and there was a crowd on my porch. Suddenly, this violent man, my fiance, was beating on my windshield like an outraged animal. When I got out of the car and approached the front door, he gave me a swift kick with his hiking boot right in the back. I ran to the house to quickly change my clothes, crying and wishing that no one was around. Why were there so many people on your porch at 12:45 in the morning? My sister Lori had tried to protect me by standing between us, and I thought about my little brother Mark, just 10 years old, who adored this man I lived with. I guess you could say he was his role model since he never had a dad at home. Yeah, we still don't know exactly how old she was when her dad left. Okay. I was the oldest of 5, and I had helped my mother raise the other 4 children. It was important to me to protect the children from the kind of thing they were now seeing and keep them safe. I tried to calm down my fiance as he screamed, "Where have you been?" And I wondered, what is the big deal? I thought it was the whiskey talking. Although I had been heartbroken a lot, I hadn't been physically hit since I was in high school. Well, to be fair, he kicked you. Sorry, that was so mean. I always said I would rather be beaten than cheated on. Really? At least the temporary pain would go away, but now I was rethinking my statement. Yeah, I would much rather be cheated on than have my man beat me. 100%. Yeah, Michelle, it is really sad, except nothing lines up and it's very potentially exaggerated, right? So that's what I mean. It's like, why were there people on the front door, like gathered? You know what I mean? It just doesn't line up. Although I sat at home a lot of empty nights wondering where my fiance was, this was the first night in months I had done something I wanted to do. Driving around the country. Okay. "Who were you with?" he screamed. As I ran for the door, he continued to threaten me. I ran out the door and didn't stop running until I got to the campground about a mile away where my mother lived. I cried as I ran, and I wished things were different. I wished he loved me and was faithful to me. Okay, I just have to pause for a second. So she says that she sat at home a lot waiting for him, but then she goes out one night and all of a sudden now she's like, he's not faithful. Well, why didn't you think that when he was never home? Okay. Where am I? I also wish I looked like so many of the other beautiful girls I caught him with after work or at the lake where they all hung out on the weekends. So you've caught him cheating? So she says, I thought I would never find anyone else, especially in Russell, Kansas. And I couldn't leave Russell when my family was there, my salon was there, and I had built up a successful dance school. Just too much going on. I'm sorry. Now there's a dance school. Oh my God. I just always hoped he would change, but he never did. I dreamed of the wedding. Shouldn't say I dreamt, whatever, it doesn't matter. I dreamed of the wedding I would have in a huge church, the children I would raise, and the nice things I would be able to give them if I continued to work extremely hard. I had watched my mother raise the 5 of us after my father had left. I thought you both raised them. Right, exactly, Carrie. There's a lot going on here, okay? And all I dreamed of was a happy family and a husband who believed in me. Now, I can't speak for her, but I feel if this had been my life, I'd be like, I'm not getting married. I've already raised children. I'm been kicked by my fiance. I'm out. Okay. But obviously, not everybody can do that. I dreamed of the okay. And all I dreamed of was a happy family and a husband who believed in me. My sister Lori drove quickly in her Jeep convertible to Mom's house. She was worried about me and told me we should go for a drive. I didn't want to be negative. Oh no. I didn't want to be negative, and I didn't want her to know just how much of a jerk he was. There was no hiding the broken mirror in the cracked windshield of my car, nor the boot print on my back. She was very well aware that I was headed down the same road my mom had gone, young, in love, and struggling in vain to keep a man faithful to her no matter how much she loved him. We both cried, and we listened to our favorite country audio cassette, Alabama, singing into the wind as we drove down the dark streets. Okay, so just speaking as a, yes, it is a pitiful rags to riches story. So as an actress, like for those of you that know or don't know, I have a Bachelor of Fine Arts in Musical Theater. So I have studied acting extensively. I've studied a lot of different, you are encouraged to really create scenarios or focus on scenarios of emotion, and then what your reaction would be, right? Now, I have never been in this particular situation. I've never had anyone hit me, abuse me. I have been in verbal and emotionally abusive relationships. I've never been physically hit. I mean, I'm huge, so I'm just kidding. That's actually, I'm not making that as a joke to be like, tall women, bigger women don't get abused, because they do. Anyhow. But when I did have big fights with one of my ex-boyfriends who was emotionally and verbally abusing me, I didn't feel like singing at all, period. And if I was in a play where this was the scenario and a director said, "What do you feel like doing right now?" I don't think singing country music would be the action that I was. Now, again, I'm not speaking for the entire population. I'm just saying that is not that's not something that I would imagine anyone would do. Okay. Oh, good Lord. Lori pulled into an old church parking lot, blaring our music next to an old classmate of hers named Scott, who had his Metallica metal on full volume. His car was bouncing from the bass, and he didn't even notice us. Okay, so tell me that you've never listened to metal and that you've also never listened to hip hop. Metal music doesn't have a bass that would make a car bounce. That's not what happens. So was he listening to metal music, or was he listening to hip hop that was making his car bounce? Or was his car bouncing for an entirely different reason? Let's continue. I, being the friendly older sister, jumped out of the Jeep and onto his bumper. Why? Until he and his friend noticed us. It was then that he made his famous comment we'd always remember. "What is that crap you are listening to?" he asked. "It's the good stuff," we replied. What does any of this have to do? Okay. Knowing this kid's brother, Dave. Oh, here it is. This is how she meets Dave Pitcock. Knowing his kid's brother's Dave was a professional bull rider and an old classmate of mine, I just shook my head at his blaring heavy metal and smiled. What does that have to... What does that have to do with anything? It has nothing to do with anything. As we drove off, I said to him, we'd probably get along better with your brother. My sister Lori made a comment about how Scott had been her first love. Boy, she said, he had really changed, going from his cowboy boots to heavy metal. But she thought his older brother Dave was still pretty fine. I ignored her comments and laughed. I had my eyes on only one thing, and it was the one thing I couldn't have. I tried so hard to make something wrong a right, and I had no idea what God had in store for me. Guys, I'm on the edge of my seat. I didn't know that Scott took my comment about having more in common with his brother seriously until several days later when Dave called me for a haircut and told me he had a proposition for me. When a man calls you and says he has a proposition for you, you say, $200, thank you. I laughed it off, postponed his appointment for a haircut, and told him I was pretty much married. What does that mean? I did agree to get back to him. So what was the proposition? Just saying proposition does not indicate an engagement. And why would this man out of nowhere propose to you? I knew he was also engaged, or I had heard he was. And the one thing I didn't ever want to experience again was a guy who cheated. My sister Lori stood at the counter in my salon with her jaw hitting the floor as she overheard my phone call. She questioned my reply to him as she mocked my behavior, muttering under her breath, "Oh no, I'm not interested in a nice guy. I'm going to get off work and go to the lake to see how many girls my boyfriend has loaded in the boat that I'm paying for." I'm sorry, this is like bad fan fiction. I told her to shut up and we loaded up in her Jeep. We hauled all the dirty towels from the salon home to wash, and we cleaned up the chaos left from the party the night before. I finally had time to go to the lake later that afternoon. I saw that my fiance was out in our boat that was full of people, and I was the only one sober. So she owns a business, 2 businesses, right? Did she say she owned? Oh, the dance company and a boat. A boat? Okay. No, Carrie, don't worry. I did not buy this. No. This was gifted to a promoter, and the promoter sent it to me. Thank you so much. I stayed on the beach for a while and then went home and waited until 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock p.m. for him to come home. It was then that I got in my car and drove off, not knowing that I would never again have to ask for permission from my fiance for anything. No matter how hard I prayed, it seemed this relationship just wasn't meant to be. Everyone always had their advice, but none of it was what I wanted to hear. My mentors in my present company told me to find someone new. So does that mean you're MLM? My grandmother who raised me would have rolled over in her grave had she known about the lifestyle I was living. More important than that, I knew in my heart my relationship with him was going nowhere, but I wanted to be loved. Don't we all, Barb? 10 years of dating, 22 years old, with a house. Okay. 10 years of dating, 22 years old, with a house, a salon of my own, a dance school, and 4 little brothers and sisters depending on me. I had to suck it up. So you started dating this guy when you were 12? 12. And then at 22, at 22, okay. And then by 22, she owned a house. Oh no, she said she had a lease, but owned a salon, a dance school. Okay. I had also been in the direct sales company for about 4 years. So she started in direct sales at 18, according to this math. And I had personally sponsored a lot of people to work for the company. No kidding. I had to keep a positive face because they depended on me. Well, you were depending on them. Yes, you were. I didn't want them to know it wasn't good at home. I would listen to the company's training tapes and be so encouraged in my work. But at other times, when I really needed to listen to them in order to remain motivated, I didn't have the strength to listen. Oh my God, that's what Zoom calls are now. That's what Zoom calls are now. Those audio tapes that people used to, oh my God. A sad love song was more appealing as I basked in the misery of my broken heart. I fumbled for a cassette while parked in the Safeway grocery alley parking lot, running from it all. Wait, didn't she start in the parking lot? I'm completely lost. Okay. I looked in the mirror of that little LeBaron, excuse me, convertible, and I could see the people in the parking lot a block away. So she also has a red convertible. Like, everyone seems so free and with no worries. Like, here's what I'm saying. If you are raising 4 kids, I don't know how you open two businesses if you're raising children. And I don't know how you end up having your own house. It just doesn't seem to make sense. They were just young kids out having a good time. It was a Saturday night and I was alone again. Oh, okay. I had a lot of bills to pay, a fiance with no job. So you have a fiance with no job, but you're leasing a house and you own 2 businesses and you have a convertible? Okay. A full day of work the next day. On top of this, my great-grandmother had just passed away. Great-grandmother? Okay. I don't want to sound insensitive, but like, okay, all right. I'm not going to sound insensitive. The next day, I would have the difficult experience of styling the hair of the grandmother I had loved, as well as my first experience doing the challenging job of styling hair at a mortuary. I knew I had to get it together and not give up. Is that a choice you made? Because that is definitely, I mean, that's what morticians do. I don't know, unless you were like adamant on doing that. I sat there and looked in the mirror. I hated myself. Jeez Louise. I hated my freckles. My skin was so fair and my hair was across. I love you too. Are you going to bed? No. Okay. What's up? Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. So now we're on to like self-loathing. Okay. Although I made everyone else happy and beautiful all day long at the salon, I was miserable. How could I keep putting on this show? I wished I could be tanned like the other girls at the lake. I wished I was a blonde, or better yet, a brunette with that dark skin to match my dark eyes. All of my other siblings were blonde and beautiful. I felt like the ugly duckling of this bunch. My self-esteem was as low as a girl's could get. Sorry that I'm not seeing any of your comments. Probably every customer. Okay. I wanted to call the pastor to cancel my Sunday school class for the next morning because I questioned my being qualified to teach it. So she also teaches Sunday school. There were only about 12 people left in that little Baptist church. Like 12 people total. And the only children left in Sunday schools were the ones I picked up and brought. And that included my little brothers and sisters and their 3 or 4 friends. Why did I get myself so involved in everything? And why did I think I always had to be Superwoman? I don't know. I wanted to quit every good thing that had ever happened to me, but I couldn't think of any good things. I wanted to quit every good thing that ever happened to me, but I couldn't think of any good things. Okay. I cried for what seemed like hours. I remembered that there was a bottle of whiskey in the trunk of my car, left by a friend of my boyfriend. I wondered what it would be like to just drink the whole thing and not care, just like most kids my age. And then I reached for the button to pop the trunk. In the rearview mirror, I noticed an old rusted out Volare with 2 guys in it, and it appeared that someone was approaching my car. Jesus. I was half scared, wondering if it was one of my fiance's friends coming to tell me who he was out with, but it was nobody I recognized at first. Looking out the window, all I could see was a cutoff shirt, a fine set of abs, and a crutch. Oh, great, I thought. A guy with a broken leg who needs a ride. He leaned down to look in my window. I dried my tears in a hurry and saw that his friend with the unimpressive car drove off. Why did his car have to be unimpressive? They both laughed as if they had been enjoying the party down the street. His hair was long. Is he approaching your car to talk to? Okay. I don't understand what's happening. His hair was long. He had that Keith Urban look going on way before it was in style. And he had the most beautiful blue eyes I had ever seen. I was too immersed in my own fears to notice that this was Dave, the very guy who had called me for a haircut that afternoon and also proposed. Like, did he propose to you? I feel like that's the bigger part of that story. He asked me for a ride. I told him I was a little scared for anyone to see him in my vehicle. Why? But he opened the door anyway and suggested that we take the backcountry roads. So this man asked for a ride. And when you said no, he said, I think that means yes. I forgot all about popping the trunk to get the bottle of whiskey as I turned my attention to getting the heck out of the parking lot and getting him delivered to where he wanted to go and out of my car as soon as possible. He looked over at me and smiled as he said, "You look nice tonight. And you smell good too." I thanked him as I tried to hide the goosebumps on my legs and arms. This is like a really bad erotica story, okay? You smelled it. I thanked him as okay, goosebumps. I felt a little numb as I drove him to his friend's house. When we arrived, he beat on the door, but his friend and his rusted out car were not there. He beat on the door. What is it? Okay. I felt like I was in a game of cat and mouse, and I really wanted to just help him find his friend. I didn't want to get caught with him in my vehicle. What does that mean? Oh, because of your boyfriend, your fiance? There are things that happen in our life that can change it in a moment. Some that we take advantage of, some that we miss, but there are always instances that can turn our lives around. I had no idea that this night would be the night that forever changed my life. Sometimes when we ask God for things, we have to be careful. Not only do we have to be careful, but we have to listen to what he tells us, whether we like the answer or not. God has a plan for all of us in our lives. It is well thought out before we are ever born. I'm not even going to get into that. Although we can make choices at crossroads, and that may determine, sorry, my nose is itchy, that may determine the outcome. We are his children, and he loves us like we love our own. What does this have to do with anything right now? He only wants happiness for all of us, but sometimes we are just hard to teach. I was always a little bit stubborn, but this time I thought I just might give in. To what? What in the hell are you talking about? We then drove around in the darkness until 3:30 a.m. until I was tired. What? Why? Why? Why could you not take him to his house? He didn't talk much, which was no problem for me. I felt like talking, and I didn't take breaths often, so he didn't have to worry about silence. He asked me a lot of questions, and for the first time in a very long time, I felt like someone cared. It had been a long time since I had someone compliment me. In fact, it had probably been since I was 12 years old when this same guy, Dave Pitcock, had sent me a rose and taken me to the movie. Wait, what? It had probably been since I was 12 years old when this same guy, Dave Pitcock. So you started dating him at 12, but he's not the guy you were. So you were dating. Okay, was she dating the same guy for 10 years? Because that's what that first sentence sounded like. Or was she dating around since she was 12? I know that some people like have boyfriends at 12. I wasn't allowed to date till I was 16. Like my parents had very strict rules about that. But my friends who did date, he was always a really nice guy, but not a person whose life I had followed through high school. I guess since that summer when we were 12, everything had changed drastically, and we had a lot of catching up to do. Okay. I think she said it was the same guy. I'm just confused. Okay. He couldn't believe it when I told him I was going to do my great grandma's hair at the mortuary in 4 hours. So it's 3:30 a.m. Okay. The thought of that just freaked him out. He asked me all about what I did, and I told him. Part of me wondered what it would be like to just run free like he had with his career and not worry about showing up at the salon, the dance school, and all my other weekly meetings and commitments. I couldn't imagine doing what he did either. Riding bulls professionally and traveling around with a carload of cowboys. Okay, but here's the thing. I now understand, but I thought it meant like those bulls in the bar. That's electronic. But even still, is that like an American thing? Is that like, I guess that's the rodeo? Oh, do I not know what a rodeo actually is? And I thought I did. Okay. Riding bulls professionally. Oh my God. It was fun listening to his stories. I was definitely entertained. Soon the sun would be coming up. We stopped at the house where his mother now lived. It wasn't the house he grew up in, nor was my mom living in the house where he used to come to visit me. A lot had changed in 10 years. So they had like a solid relationship when they were 12 and then just like fell off, because that's not clear to me. We reminisced about his coming over to jump on my trampoline. He also reminded me that his friend Wettig, Wettig, would hold my baby brother for me so that he could kiss me goodbye before he ran home. At 12? Back then, so his friend would hold the baby so these two 12-year-olds could kiss goodbye. You can kiss somebody goodbye while holding a baby. So what were you doing that you needed to pass off the baby? Back then, Dave had to try to beat it home before the streetlights came on. He used to fear his dad would be there waiting if he was late. I would worry that my mom and dad might come home early, although they usually never got home from work until the wee hours of the morning. When we were children, Dave's mom and dad ran a Western wear store, and my parents owned several businesses, including a food distribution company that kept both of them on the road in semi-trucks at least 5 days a week. Okay, so that company, they owned it, and they were the truck drivers for the company. Okay. I didn't mind taking care of the kids and putting them to bed. Everything up to this said she hated it. You kiss without No, Natalie, I'm saying like if you if you're holding a baby and you're going to kiss goodbye, like you don't need all of your hands, especially when you're 12. Okay, so she had said up into this that she hated taking care of herself, but she hated her parents for it. And now she's like, I didn't mind. I loved my little brothers and sisters and dreamed of someday having my own. Even though my mom and I butted heads so much, I used to threaten that I would never have kids. What a threat. Hey, Mom, I'm not going to give you grandchildren. In 7th grade, life is just a fantasy. I believe that it is during those years that we are really influenced to become the person we will later be. God, thank God that's not true. It seemed like decades since we were both just kids at the movies with families that were picture perfect to all of the other kids. I tried not to cry as Dave and I talked about our parents. It was all so fresh. Both of our parents had since divorced, and oddly enough, both of our dads made the decision to leave during our senior years of high school. Well, isn't that just convenient? We compared the survival stories of our moms, who were both single, well, trying to put the pieces together for us, and the younger ones. Dave's mom was out of town that summer night in August. There was nobody home but the two of us, and I was a little scared to be there at first. My trust in men was not very strong, but I didn't want to leave. Dave talked to me like he was my best friend, and a few times he stopped talking and just looked at me like he was looking into some crystal ball. I didn't know how to explain this feeling, but I didn't want it to go away. We read the pro rodeo sports news until about 4 a.m. I was somewhat intrigued that he had just had a major surgery and had been told he might never walk again. He walked up to your car. What are you talking? Yet he said he was so addicted to the adrenaline rush, he couldn't wait to enter in another rodeo. There was a rodeo the next night in Abilene, Kansas. He planned to go there and then to see a friend on the Kansas State campus after the rodeo. It sounded like a lot of fun to be somebody who didn't have a job, since I didn't often take off work and go out. The sun was coming up as he walked me back to my car. He walked close to me and opened my door. Oh, okay. Although I had been out all night and in the presence of a male, I was innocent and I knew it. Well, almost innocent. As he closed the door, he whispered to me, I usually don't kiss a girl on the first date. Then he kissed me and walked away as if I might never see him again. But then again, I might. And that, ladies and gentlemen, ends chapter 1 of No Guts, No Story. Does anyone know what the hell happened? Because I do not. It was supposed to be the story of how she met her now husband. I'm not sure that I understand the sequence of events, but we will continue. Or if you would like, we'll do, I might record again, because I really can't watch the comments. So I might just record some of these and just like knock out a few and upload them and make a whole playlist of it. Or you let me know if you think I should just do them live, but maybe we'll take some breaks and we'll read a little bit of The Thinking Cure, or maybe a little bit of When You Believe. But I'll tell you, I'm walking on air with how incredible these were. So yeah, I'm going to wrap this up because this has been so transformational for me, that first chapter. Either way, I'll listen to you read the whole book. I hope that you enjoyed my commentary. I am reading. Oh my God. Carrie, there are 3 whole books. 3 whole books. Yeah, you'll have to go back and watch the replay, like the beginning, to see the introduction. Yeah, there's 3 books that were gifted to a promoter when the promoter met the 3 of them. So we are going to be doing dramatic readings, and I hope that you all enjoyed part 1 of No Guts, No Story. Thanks for being here on the Shakedown, and I'll see you guys next time.